Alright, first things first, real talk. Jesus Christ. I was expecting a few people to be upset with how the game turned out, but taking that frustration and elevating it to the level I've experienced is insane. Seriously. Look, I'll keep this brief. The game turned out almost exactly how I'd imagined. The overall story was planning that from the beginning. Yes, I have shifted my focus away from certain aspects and cut out some of the stuff to save on time and energy, but overall I like how the game turned out. If you don't like it, then just leave a negative review and move on. Go find another game that fits the niche that you're looking for. Hell, make your own game if you need to. Make a fan fiction. Just don't try to forcefully change the game yourself. That's just, no, you don't do that. Alright, now that that's out of the way. Hi there. This is my 7th and final devlog for Roseblight. Kind of fitting that I ended on 7, huh? In this devlog, I'm mostly going to go over how I feel about the project now that it's released, how the project itself evolved and turned out, where I went right and wrong, what I could have done differently, and what I have planned for the future of the game. So, if I were to describe Roseblight as a whole, I would say it's very inconsistent. When the game starts, it starts off pretty simple. There's an exposition, you're introduced to the main character and the world, and you sort of have a glimpse into what the plot is. Chapter 1 is structured essentially like how a Metroidvania is structured. You enter a new area, get a new movement ability, explore the area and use the new movement that you acquired, beat the boss, and move on. It's pretty simple. Immediately after, Chapter 2, it goes in a completely different direction. You enter a new area just out of nowhere and have the choice to fight your other self, introduced at the beginning, or talk to them. Either way resulting in a new ability. That's basically the most overpowered Kadim in the game. Afterwards, you move on, try out the new ability, and then fight a boss. In Chapter 3, which is essentially a glorified version of the free play option from the Blind Ruins update, it's basically just backtracking through where you came and testing out a new party member, and then watching a few cutscenes. Chapter 4 is basically just going from point A to point B, while occasionally talking to a few people and more cutscenes. That's probably my least favorite part of the game, to be honest. Chapter 5 is interesting because it's sort of structured like Chapter 1, but there's a lot of things that are optional. Like, once you get past the dungeon area, you fight and fight the final boss, you can kind of turn around to the area in Chapter 4 and you fight the final boss. And after that, the game just ends. Most games would generally have a structure where it's basically laid out like Chapter 1, but you just repeat that a few times. And that was my initial plan, but as soon as I added in like Chapter 2 or the last part of the initial demo, I kind of threw that structure out the window. To me, it doesn't really feel like an actual video game, you know? Like it just feels weird. Like honestly, I don't think I need to be working on it for this long. I very easily could have turned a lot of the concepts in Roseblight into smaller projects and made them like their own thing. That definitely would have made them easier to manage, and given how I have a hard time being consistent with something for long-term projects, I think that would have made the development of that easier. I did consider canceling the game earlier this year, but I knew that if I did, I would probably regret it. I think one of the biggest things that I learned is that making a Metroidvania / RPG is very difficult. Like, it's probably the hardest type of game to make. You get the minimum effort for the maximum effort. You get the minimum amount for the maximum effort. Honestly, I don't think I'm going to make another game like this ever again. Well, at least without the proper help and resources. I'm not done with Roseblight as a whole, though. If you played through the whole game and got to the main end and was like, "What? That's it? Dude, come on. You can't do this to me." Then good. That was the idea. I kind of wanted to make the main ending a massive cliffhanger to keep people on the edge of their seats. I know people don't like not knowing how a story ends, but I can assure you that if I do make a sequel to this game, it's going to be tight. I can't guarantee that I will make a sequel, but I am planning on sort of continuing the story in one way or another. I will say, working on this project has definitely been a strain. I've been working on it since what, 2019, and it's just kind of a mess. There's a lot of core things from a technical standpoint that are just outdated and hard to work with. Because I've been working on the project for a while, and I was learning how to make it as I was going along. There are a lot of things I made a long time ago that sort of evolved into like this big mess that are just hard to work with, especially with the dialogue and cutscenes. Like I've had to do so many workarounds with that. It's kind of ridiculous. I definitely have learned a lot while working on this project. And I think what's interesting is you can really tell like how far I've come as a game developer by looking at it. I think the best way to judge my competence as a developer is not by looking at Roseblight itself, but also at the game jams submissions I've made while working on it. Like if you look under the hood of Roseblight, I sort of imagine it looks like I just took like a bunch of my smaller games and just sort of like duct taped them all together and just like called that like a full length video game. I think working on smaller things while also working on a long term project is good for your overall learning experience, because you can kind of take what you learn from smaller projects and apply them to your larger ones. Every single like game jam that I've participated in, I've learned something new and I've applied that newfound knowledge to whatever else I'm working on at the time. If I could have done things differently, I would have made the initial demo way shorter. Like looking back on it, I legit just made like 40% of the whole game and called it a quote unquote demo. I easily could have just had it stop when you got shot by Marmot and had the rest planned for like a future update. Granted, at the time I had a lot more free time on my hands, so I thought I would have more time in the future, where in reality I couldn't. I mean, I have a life outside the game. If you're wondering why it took so long to make despite it being so short, it's because I haven't been working on it for as long as it seems. From August 2020 to April 2021 was definitely a dark age in terms of development is concerned, since I had a part-time job and was busy managing the Discord server for the game, along with having to deal with school, family, whatnot. Speaking of the Discord, another thing I would have done differently was probably not make one to begin with. Looking back on it, it was nice to talk to people who were interested in what I was working on, but it was really taking time out of my day, which I could have been spending working on the game instead. I was basically putting more effort into the community than the game itself, and that's not my job. Especially with the drama I've been having to deal with for the past like 9 months. Having to talk to a bunch of people has eaten up a lot of development time. I mean, I literally just want to make video games in peace, and I have had people trying to get me to unblock them on Discord and leave shitty comments on my Ko-Fi, and people trying to contact my school so they can take away my IP so they can make the game themselves. Like, that's just why. I mean, I kind of expect that kind of stuff with people like Yandere Dev, who clearly deserve that treatment. But like with me, I mean, the worst thing I've done is retire a Discord server on short notice. I mean, I'm not a very good leader. I never have been and never will be. I know I could have handled that differently, but at the time I was just a really bad point mentally. I just needed to take care of what needed to be taken care of, you know? Plus, I kind of felt like an outcast. Like, I feel like I made a community that I just didn't feel like I was a part of, and I was mostly keeping around because I just didn't want to see it crumble. I kind of wanted to transfer the Discord's ownership to someone else, but I knew that if I did, then it just wouldn't be the same, so I just decided to get rid of it altogether. It's stuff I've been having to deal with. It's just a mess. I really don't think I've been having to deal with the aftermath of what I've done for this long. I think another thing I would have done differently is make this devlog series a lot earlier. I really enjoy writing my thoughts down and just sort of talk to myself out loud so I can kind of discuss what I'm doing and why. I've been posting game dev updates about the game since I started working on it, but there's really only so much you can show in like a 10-second like little thingy on Twitter. I think a lot of people may have missed out on little details in some aspects of the game and like the story and whatnot early on because I literally didn't tell them about it. I really like going into depth into what I work on, and doing this it helps me. It really helps me out. I will most likely make a devlog series for the next game that I work on. I know I've made mistakes during Roseblight's development. That's okay. People make mistakes. I'm not perfect, and what I make won't be perfect. I mean, I'm only a young adult undergrad college student. I can't make my magnum opus now. I've got my whole life ahead of me. I'm still learning how to make video games. Hell, I recently learned what enums are and are like, what? Where the hell has this been all my life? I think what's important is knowing where I messed up, though, and I feel like I have a pretty solid grasp on that now. What I've learned from this project has definitely changed me, and I know that from this point forward, what I make will be much, much better. I recently released a small update for the game, the Missing Link update, which adds 4 alternate endings to the game in a new museum area, along with a couple other small changes. 2 of the alternate endings were supposed to be included with the Changed Souls update, but were kind of scrapped due to just time constraints and lack of energy. One of the complaints I've received about the game is that the game's writing just kind of stoops down towards the end. So I've decided to add some alternate endings to sort of expand on the characters a bit. And if not, I haven't written better, then hopefully explain why they were written that way. I understand that the game's ending isn't necessarily conclusive, so hopefully this will scratch an itch that some people may have. As for any other future plans for the game, I don't have many. At this point, I'm just kind of lost a lot of my passion for working on the project itself. But I definitely do want to take some of the things that I sort of scrapped from this game and want to use them in future projects or maybe even jam submissions. I'm definitely going to shift my focus away from this and towards other things. I might touch back up on the game if there's any interest in the future, but for now I'm just kind of mentally checked out. I'm still going to try and support it and whatnot. Like I'll still do bug fix updates, but yeah, I'm kind of just like. And that is all I really have to say about the game. I mean, it's been in development for a while now, and I think I'm just about wrapped up with it. If you encounter any issues with the game, please contact me via email or Discord so that I can resolve the issue. Please don't contact me if you're going to send me hate messages or spam. Otherwise, I'm just not going to respond. I don't check notifications on YouTube or Twitter, so just don't try to contact me through that. But yeah, the game didn't blow up into the next Undertale or anything, and I'm totally cool with that. It's not a perfect game, but I'm proud of it regardless. I know I said this in my last devlog, but for all the people who've been cheering me on and are genuinely interested in what I make, thank you. If you're new, make sure to subscribe, for Epic Gamer content. But yeah, that's pretty much everything. Yeah. Thank you all. See ya.